Hi guys, I'm Mayur Shetty, CEO of Blackfrog Technologies, and today I'm talking to Dr. G. Padmanabhan. With mass immunization picking up force, we have too many concerns and questions on taking the COVID-19 vaccines and what it means. Dr. Padmanabhan is definitely the most appropriate person to answer these questions. He comes with a vast experience in modern vaccines. He's the former director of Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and presently on India's Vaccine Evaluation Committee under DBT. He's a celebrated scientist. I'm a big fan, and you have been a huge inspiration for our work too in understanding the subtleties in vaccine delivery. I'm truly honored to have you talk to me about this sensitive and crucial subject. Thank you very much and welcome once again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Sir, you have written a memoir titled Doing Science in India, My Second Innings. Now, in that, you have talked about the risk of abandoning previous contributions and building on previous initiatives. So, how much has previous vaccine development contributed to the development of the present COVID-19 vaccines? Do you think this was sheer desperation that we did our best in developing the vaccines, or have we really gotten so good at it now that the next big vaccine we will develop in, which will take surprisingly a shorter time? What's your thought on this, sir?
Yeah, it's indeed a very great achievement in that sense. Vaccines take 12 to 15 years, and the whole community, world community, has been able to develop this corona vaccines in within less than 2 years. I should say about 18 months, and by 2 years' time, they are ready to vaccinate.
Right.
But none of the steps have been skipped.
Oh, okay.
You see, only thing is they have been fast-tracked. Things would have been done sequentially, have been done parallelly.
Right.
And there is an unprecedented collaboration.
Right.
Now, if you really look at one of the example, for example, mRNA vaccine, started in California, went to Vancouver, then went into Austria, Italy. Finally, the clinical trial was done in UK.
Right.
So it's unbelievable, the across continents, across countries, collaboration can happen, and regulatory authorities will permit it. Earlier it used to be so difficult to move anything.
Right.
So much now, because of this pandemic, many things have changed, but the steps have not been skipped.
Right, sir. Yeah, I understand there's a general enthusiasm, sir, all over for the vaccine, and everybody's been looking forward to it. But one of the reasons, I mean, that a lot of people are apprehensive is the short duration that the vaccine development has taken. And personally, for me as an engineer, if I build an instrument, I know it's going to take iterations, it's going to take modifications, there's going to be optimization over time, and that requires its own sweet time, right? Any amount of simulation isn't going to help me conclusively determine if the final combination will withstand nature. So, considering this, these vaccines have been developed in a record time and put to human use already, don't you think it's kind of understandable that people are a little apprehensive? And what do you think we can do to alleviate this concern, sir?
There is apprehension, I should accept that. But, normally vaccines go through preclinical trials in animal models.
Right.
Then comes phase 1, which is in normal human volunteers, just to know the toxicity, side effects, and so on. Then comes phase 2, which is an extended phase 1, in addition to getting some efficacy data.
Right.
It's a phase 3 where you recruit a large number of people, anywhere between 5,000 to 40,000 people are recruited.
Right.
So none of these steps have been skipped, except I should say, based on phase 2 data, permission has been given, what we call as emergency approval.
Right. And that's not been done in the past, sir?
That, sometimes, of course, we never got a vaccine, for example, for Ebola, or the vaccines came after the event, more or less.
Yeah.
But HIV, for example, was given. So this clause exists. When there is a dire situation, you can give emergency vaccine.
Right.
But there, you treat it like a trial.
Right.
Although you are giving in the population, you still, normally, when you give it to, now we are vaccinating.
Right.
So they are not following you. They vaccinate you and leave you. Unless you have a side effect, you go there. But in emergency trial, each candidate has to be followed.
Right. Right.
So to that extent, it is it is a trial, but at the same time, very carefully, each person is followed. That's why it's called as emergency trial. Yeah.
So, I mean, apart from doing it parallelly, you talked about not skipping steps, but you're not doing it sequentially, but parallelly you're conducting multiple activities. But what else do you think is a factor, sir? Do you think money is a factor in speeding up this process? There's been unprecedented spending on COVID-19 mitigation. So the kind of resources we've pulled in to develop the vaccines have also been something that we've never seen before. Do you think that has helped? And do you think it will help research and drug development in the larger scheme of things also? Has the ecosystem gotten stronger because of that?
You are very right. There has been an unprecedented kind of investment. And I must say, this is part of it is unfortunate. In the sense, there is a vaccine nationalism.
Right.
What we call as developed countries have cornered most of the vaccines.
Right.
Because it was rightly predicted it is going to be a pandemic.
Right.
And they wanted to protect their people. US, for example, spent billions of dollars and made a booking of so many doses of vaccine. Actually.
Right.
So that, in a sense, that many of the European countries also did.
Right.
So, only 4 countries. Now, even now, that is why WHO started this organization or a community called COVAX.
Right. Yeah.
Coalition, whatever. This is basically to collect investment, collect vaccines, and then distribute to those countries which cannot afford.
Right.
Otherwise, what has happened, the bulk of the vaccines have been cornered by developed countries, actually, which is not a very, in fact, the other way around, India, even though it was not self-sufficient, it exported vaccines. In the beginning, at least, they did that.
Yeah.
And the whole world appreciated it. But still, this now, developed countries say we are giving 100,000 doses or 10 million doses. If you take a country like India, I wrote a small article in the Hindu sometime back. India said we will vaccinate anybody above 18.
Right.
And our population is 75 crore.
Right.
And if you 2 doses is 150 crore, that is 1,500 million doses.
Right.
1,500 million doses. And we are talking still about 300 million, 200 million, like that. We are still 5-fold of that order we have to go.
Right.
And there are countries, of course, at least we have 2 vaccines, we have manufacturing capability.
Right.
There are many countries which can't manufacture vaccines.
Right.
So that is a very, very sad situation.
So on one end, there is the vaccine that's developed in a short period of time, which will obviously create apprehension. But then there are a lot of conspiracy theories and concerns in localized groups, particular groups based on race or religion. I mean, even Dr. Fauci had to come out and claim that one of the leading scientists who worked on the development of the vaccine in the US was a member of the African American community, and there is no reason for particular groups to be concerned or apprehensive. Do you think we should be carrying out similar campaigns, or do you think Government of India should be working on improving the awareness and ensuring that people are at least their concerns are alleviated, sir?
It should, because I don't see any other, all said and done, there is no medical intervention that has saved millions and millions of lives like vaccine.
Right.
Although there have been, here and there will be a side effect. Most often it is not vaccine mediated.
Right.
But it is interpreted as due to the vaccine.
Right.
But if you take history of mankind, the vaccination is the only way, starting from Jenner, as we call it, cowpox vaccine, to protect against smallpox.
Okay. Correct. Yeah.
Mankind has been saved hugely by vaccination.
Right.
But people do have these concerns, especially you are right, certain communities do have, there have been propaganda, it will induce sterility, it will induce autism, all those kinds of things. It is not true, actually.
Right.
But at the same time, there are, for example, a vaccine that needs to be stored at even 2 to 8 degrees. Forget about -70 and all that.
Right.
Sometimes in India, they are not stored properly.
Right.
What we call as, the cold chain is not maintained.
Right.
If it is not maintained, the vaccine will lose efficacy.
Right.
Then we should not blame the vaccine per se. Vaccine was okay, but it was not handled properly. It was not stored properly. So we have to have those kind of concerns. That in fact, India has what we call as a national immunization program.
Right.
For other vaccines.
Right.
Children's vaccines, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, etc., measles included.
Right.
But of course, India did a great job in polio.
Right. Yeah.
That was appreciated by WHO.
Right.
But even so, I'm told, every state has cold room facilities for these. Right. But some of them, I have read articles, are not maintained properly. There's a breakdown of the motor, breakdown of the cooling system, right. Not attended to properly. So right. These are not on. If right. we have to have the vaccine at least 2 to 8 degrees. Both the vaccines require that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've personally, I worked on veterinary vaccines, and I've seen that where for cattle and for goats, you take vaccines in abysmally poor conditions, and you give the vaccines, and the vaccines don't work. But a week or 15 days later, the livestock, the animal catches the disease anyway. And you can understand the linear thought process we have, right? I gave the medicine, 15 days later, my cow fell sick and it died. So I'm going to attribute it to the vaccine itself. So, and that's the worst thing that could possibly happen. Yes. Right. So, do you think there could be sociological problems like this coming up in the vaccine delivery in India, sir, for human vaccines?
Unlikely, but all the articles which come, not only these 2 vaccines, all the vaccines, about 7 or 8 vaccines are running around in the whole world, actually.
Right.
In every case, it has been shown it will prevent severity.
Right.
It will prevent hospitalization.
Right.
But people may still get infected.
Right.
These people must be ready. This is if they don't take proper precaution. Right. But personally, the most important vaccine is wearing a mask.
Right.
I tell you, this is very, very effective. Very effective. And especially, better to wear even cloth mask. People cannot afford N95 and all that. At least cloth mask. Maybe double layer of cloth mask. Instead of a single layer, if you wear double layer,
right.
Very effectively it can prevent infection.
Right.
Because this virus, is in a kind of a droplet which is almost close to 10 micron above.
Right.
And these cloth masks are capable of cutting them down, actually. In addition, you prevent your cough, your sneeze getting out and then infecting somebody else.
Right.
In case somebody has them.
So right now, people are getting both the shots of the vaccines, and they're still ending up contracting COVID-19 anyway. And you talked about breakthrough infections. So apart from poor cold chain, are there any other reasons why this is happening? And does this mean how long do you think we have to keep continuing to take the vaccines? Is it just this year, next year? How long do
This
you?
is a very, very important question. I'm trying to publish something that we need to have a third dose sometime in the middle of next year.
Okay.
2 doses, still it's a matter of debate. Even
Right.
if you are protected, antibodies are made. How long they last?
Right.
Estimates vary between 3 months, 6 months, and so on.
Right.
Most likely, if you have 2 doses,
Right.
probably middle of next year, people may be protected.
Right.
And if you take one more shot, and most likely we don't know this virus actually has. I should say, induced a lot of humility in scientists. We thought we know this, we know that. We can use AI, we can use robo, we can use this. But, this tiny fellow can't even see. We don't know. Still, we don't understand. What is the root? For example, you raised this question apart from cold chain. These variants. The Indian variant, now they don't want to call it as Indian variant. It is called as Delta.
Right.
Now WHO has introduced a new classification.
Right.
You don't call it as UK variant, South African variant, Brazilian variant. You call them alpha, beta, gamma.
Right.
And the Indian variant, you call it as Delta.
Right. Right.
Now, what has happened is Delta is spread all over in India.
Mm.
Now, it coincides with the big increase surge you saw in the second wave.
Right.
Therefore, there is a concern whether this variant, there will be a breakthrough even if you are vaccinated with this variant.
Right.
But people have shown, even though the neutralization ability has decreased,
right.
It is still protecting.
Right.
The vaccines are still protecting.
Right.
But that I think the jury is still not out, in my opinion, unless we get a lot more data.
Right.
And a lot more people are vaccinated. We have still vaccinated how many? 20 crore out of 75 crore, of which only 3 or 4 crore have received both the doses.
Both, yeah. Yeah.
See, on a single dose, protects only about 30-35%.
Right.
So we need to take both the doses.
Right.
Therefore, I think, unless we cover at least 50% of our target or 60% of our target,
right.
We don't know. I am hoping if you get that to that point, we may get herd immunity.
Right.
You may get herd immunity if you reach up to 50-60% of the target. That means if 40 crore of our population is covered,
right.
Maybe there will be herd immunity and there may be protection. But we have to take one more dose in next year.
Right.
And I'm hoping that this virus may tame down like a yearly flu virus,
right.
rather than a pandemic kind of thing.
Vaccines are becoming a lifestyle component now. You just talked about the third dose, sir. So we are accepting that once a year or so we have to go get the shot now, moving ahead also. So it's going to become kind of like going to the dentist even if you don't have a tooth problem, right? Every once a year, just go get it done. So that means we have to accommodate this with our routine. So that comes with its own concerns, sir. Women have shown a little bit of apprehension of taking the vaccine during the menstrual cycle. Do you think there are any guidelines for this? Anything they need to look out for, sir? It's already a painful phase for a lot of women. So do you think taking the vaccine could exacerbate this?
No, but I think, more recent pronouncements indicate that pregnant women, for example, can take the vaccine. I have not met any concern about women during the menstrual cycle. Actually,
right?
Probably they can avoid those cycle period. 3 days or 4 days. Better to avoid that period.
Okay.
but otherwise, women it can take they can take. Even pregnant women can take the vaccine. That's
Right. Right. So what about sniffles? Just cough and cold. Let's say it's not so bad that I have to go get a test done, but I have a small cough or I'm sneezing. Do you think I should just wait it out? Do you think I should get a negative test result and then get the vaccine, or am I just wasting it while there's a chance that I already have tested positive? What's an appropriate behavior there, sir?
if they're still there and if somebody gets a cold, people have become paranoid also.
Right.
For example, there was a joke going around. The family, it seems the lady forgot to put salt in sambar, and everybody went for RT-PCR test. That means, you lose smell, you lose taste.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason,
Right.
immediately they think it may be COVID and therefore go for an RT-PCR test. That's not required actually,
Right.
But isolate yourself for a few days, quarantine yourself and make sure, temperature is a very, very good yardstick. If your, temperature is your normal temperature and you have a cold.
Right.
But, so you have, first thing is to quarantine yourself for a few days and make sure it is just common cold.
So, but you just talked about paranoia with COVID, sir. But do you think that is any bright side to it? I mean, everybody is obsessed with sanitizing their hands now, which was never a thing in India. Yeah. And personal hygiene and social distancing are always a good thing, regardless of COVID-19. There's a healthy respect for science and technology now. Everybody from policemen to watchmen to laborers, everybody is like, "Mera vaccine kab mil raha hai?" So there's a general enthusiasm for vaccines and science and technology. Do you think this is something that we can ride on in India? I mean, to our advantage moving ahead in India with the kind of mindset change that COVID has brought about?
I think we should, to an extent. There is the other flip side of that. People said, India doesn't have that much mortality. Right. Compared to, although we had a very high surge and all that, our mortality rate was still low. And then they said you have what is called as trained immunity. Right. Now, this is, we all took BCG. My generation, your generation may not have taken, I do not know. But more than that, the less hygienic condition has promoted a lot of antibodies in us. We are very sturdy to that extent, we are very, very resistant to infectious diseases because of upbringing. Our environment has not been that. Now, at least middle class is okay, but poorer people live in an environment where there is a huge sanitation problem. Right. But that doesn't mean it has given us a little bit of advantage probably, but that doesn't mean we can continue with that. Although I think there is a better awareness now about cleanliness, hand washing. Right. That kind of thing. I think this is a lesson and I think it should continue.
Right.
Yeah.
So your key areas of research in the past has been genetic engineering and gene therapy. So I have to ask you this. There's a lot of conspiracy on vaccines causing genetic mutation and maybe long-term effects even in offsprings. How much merit do these claims hold, sir?
That doesn't have any merit. Really speaking, vaccines do not cause mutation. Vaccines do not cause, like I said, that is something I would say not only in our community, even in US, there is a group which feels I want to take the vaccine. Right. So they don't want to take the vaccine. But, there is absolutely no evidence. But sometimes vaccines have not been stored properly. Right. Vaccines could have been contaminated. Right. And, they would have introduced some bug or something like that, and there is a rare side effect also. You can never say no. For example, people with blood clot, there was a big issue in between. People were
Right.
discussing where, we have their platelet counts are down.
Right.
Such people apparently are susceptible to blood clots for AstraZeneca vaccine.
Right.
So,
So,
therefore, some countries banned it.
yeah, that's right, sir. Yeah. So, do they have any merit in kind of banning a WHO approved vaccine altogether? So, they're put on hold for 60 days and so many countries, right?
They can afford to. A country like Austria,
Yeah.
is so small, and they can afford to take care of every one of their individual like that. They by putting a ban and all, because probably the infection rate also is small. But you can't do this for a country like India. This is just not there. But in general, vaccines do not cause major side effects.
Sir, how rare is rare? You just mentioned a smaller country like Austria can afford it. India cannot. So I'm just speaking from an individualistic standpoint. I wholeheartedly agree with the importance of vaccine, and we talked about India's universal immunization program that's been deemed as one of the most cost-effective public health interventions of all times. But from a individual standpoint, do you think it is wise for somebody between a healthy young adult to avoid the vaccine, stating adverse drug reactions, or the fact that yesterday we claimed first vaccine fatality in India, right? So when these numbers come up, and young adults do have that apprehension of I'm healthy, even if I get COVID, I'll just walk it off. So keeping the bigger picture, the holistic picture of public health aside, do you think from an individual standpoint that makes any sense, sir, to just say I won't take the vaccine?
No, it should still be taken, because of course, every individual, we talk very insensitive in terms of death, for example, talking about percentage.
Right.
Each individual death is a huge tragedy for that particular family.
Absolutely.
We talk about percentages, it doesn't make sense, Right. But, at the same time, I must tell, the pandemic seems to be affecting so-called healthy young adults.
Right. Yeah.
And people have died.
Right.
So that's, of course, we have to take that risk, in my opinion. That means even if it is 1 out of 10,000 gets this serious side effect, let us say.
Right.
But the rest of it would be beneficial. We have to take it, because the idea that I am healthy, I am young, I will not be, that is not true.
Right.
That will not hold, at least with respect to this particular virus.
Right.
To my mind, better everyone takes the vaccine. Even if they are healthy, even if they are, think they will not get it. This best thing, must take the vaccine. Yeah.
Sir, I believe a lot of the hesitation comes. When your parents are kind of instructing you to do something, when you are a rebellious teenager, your parents tell you to do something. But if the parents are not, they're not saying it with full conviction, there is going to be a little bit of fight back. So when when there's a lot of doubts and rollbacks and kind of changing course with the vaccine, like for example, the gap between two doses, it went from 4 weeks to 6 weeks to 8 to 12. So what do you think what's the reason for that? Is it just?
This I think personally I have slightly different view. I think it was initially done for business reasons.
Okay.
In my opinion, even now you still do not have enough vaccine doses to cover the global population.
Right.
So especially developed countries putting a lot of pressure on AstraZeneca, and I don't think they had manufactured, including collaboration with Serum Institute, they didn't have enough number of doses.
Right.
To my mind, one of the reasons for postponing was to build up stocks.
Right.
Of course, they have a paper which shows the antibody titers become higher if you give the gap longer.
That's right,
yes.
sir. So,
yes, that is there.
Right.
But, it is a combination of things. Normally in the immunology standard,
right.
we say 4 to 6 weeks, you get a booster.
Right.
That is the standard. You said you work with veterinary vaccine. So the standard immunization is 4 to 6. I have done thousands of mice study in my career.
Right.
Standard, after 4 weeks, we will give the booster.
Right.
Of course, that is in the mouse study. But now to talk about 3 months gap,
Right.
this is something very new. But there is a paper which says their antibody titer goes up.
Yeah. So there is a paper, but what is your personal opinion on this? Are we eroding hard-earned effort of the first shot if we wait that long? What do you think is happening, sir?
No, but I don't know. See, in a country like India, I somehow feel better. We should not have gone back and forth. People are already confused.
Right.
Now, then you say 12 weeks, then you say 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Better we could have stuck with 6 to 8 weeks, in my opinion.
Oh, from the beginning, right?
From
6 to 8 weeks.
And
okay.
after the first dose,
Right.
You don't wait for 3 months. That is 12 weeks.
Right.
I would have simply left it to 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah.
Right. But like you mentioned, so this was mostly a supply chain problem that had to be kind of.
Yeah, definitely. In India, definitely it's a supply chain problem. Yeah.
Would this get better, sir? Moving ahead, at least next year hopefully for our third shot, do you think things are getting streamlined?
I don't know. I'm hoping. See, one thing that can be done, you don't have to give the same vaccine.
Right.
Even if you have taken Covaxin or Covishield 2 doses,
right.
The third vaccine can be a new vaccine.
Right.
So long as it is against the spike protein. You see all the vaccines, whether it is RNA vaccine, DNA vaccine, protein vaccine, or adeno, all of them are against spike.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the third vaccine can be, in my opinion, any other vaccine can be given.
So it can be done, or do you think it should be done, sir? Is it better if you mix it up?
Third vaccine, I think, is essential.
Right.
In my opinion. Third dose is very essential, in my opinion. Yeah. And we need to plan from now on, because in India, we are struggling to give the second dose.
Right.
Yeah, but I am talking about the third dose next year, so I think we should get ready.
So do you think it would stop at third dose? What do you think would be the plan moving ahead? Even if we do immunize all of our population and we get ahead of the pandemic, India is a huge country. We have too many travelers, people coming in from outside, and all of the countries are not going to be at the same level, right? So moving ahead, how do you think immunization should be carried out? Sir?
At least for a few more years, at least surveillance has to continue.
Right.
See, I am also co-chair. I don't know whether you heard about this INSACOG.
Right.
There is a Indian sequencing effort. Some 10 institutions have come together.
Right.
And they will do sequencing of the virus.
Right.
So that gives you some kind of surveillance possibilities. See?
Right.
So they have done travelers as they come, they do, and they know what variants they carry. To that extent, some knowledge information is available, and that should be expanded.
Right.
Our surveillance has to continue, I don't know, at least for 2 more years, in my opinion. Minimum.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you think private sector immunization would help with this, sir? Apart from just Government of India's efforts, do you think corporations engaging in immunization would help speed up this process?
It will. Cost may be a factor.
Right.
Because government says it is giving for free, but whereas private sector, already hospitals are charging close to 1,000 rupees per. So I do not know whether all the people can afford 2 doses. It means 2,000, and if the family consists of 5-6 people, it's for 10,000 rupees. It's not a small amount for many people, probably. So I know whether it's what we call it, you will know better, corporate social responsibility. What is it, CSR? I don't know whether it should be part of it, and companies should donate, and so that vaccination is possible. Something has to be done. Yeah.
Right.
I see private sector coming will help. That's not a need. Yeah.
Right, right. Sir, this is the last question from my end, sir. And I want you to remove the scientist hat, and I'm just asking you something. I am not going to demand any data or evidence for this. Just your personal opinion on this, sir. What do you think is the origin of COVID-19, sir? Do you think it was laboratory developed, or do you think it's from the wild? What's from your experience? What's your hunch?
I don't know whether it, but the fact remains. One thing is clear: they were working on these, a bat virus.
Right.
What was infecting?
Hmm.
They were apparently trying to see whether it can be converted, what it takes for it to infect a human cell line.
Right.
Although it infects the animal cell line.
Right.
And of course, the underlying explanation is that knowledge would help us to protect against the disease.
Right.
Unless China comes forward and we, frankly tell the whole world what happened,
right.
We will never know what really happened. But the fact remains that
right.
They were doing this kind of research.
Right.
Whether the specificity of the virus can be changed from the animal to the human.
Right.
My question is, you said, if I don't wear the scientist's hat, is it necessary at all to do this kind of research?
Right. So you don't see a pragmatic need for...
I don't see, that knowledge is not going to really help, actually. This is, it's not needed, in my opinion, to know what changes the specificity of the virus. There is in my opinion, it is probably, for publication, this kind of thing. But, whether it changes the specificity or not, history has told us.
Right.
That viruses can change specificities. Viruses can undergo mutation.
Right.
So, we need to protect ourselves. We need to have vaccines. Now, what is happening to influenza?
Right.
Each year, it changes. So, they have a baseline, I am told, some strains. Plus, a new strain is added every time to the vaccine.
Right.
And that is what is given to protect against influenza. And every year you have to take that vaccine.
Right.
So what knowledge is that? Whether it mutates or doesn't mutate, that is how it goes. But we want to protect against influenza. So therefore, this research is needed. This is what.
Sir, on a closing note, what would be your suggestion for anybody who's reluctant to take the vaccine? We're all booking our slots now, and we're getting our shots. What do you think your suggestion would be if we are slightly doubtful about whether I need the vaccine or not? Should I be taking it for me? Should I be taking it for the benefit of my parents and my elders? What's your one thought on that, sir?
No, I am very clear in my mind. You must take the vaccine. If you are young, if you are healthy, even so. This virus has taught us a lesson. It doesn't have barriers. It cuts across age. It cuts across many, many situations. Therefore, please do take the vaccine. Number one. Number two, vaccination is not 100% protection. You have to follow what you call as COVID appropriate behavior. I feel minimally vaccination and wearing the mask would cut down the risk by more than 80%.
Right.
At least these two, these are practicable. This is social distancing. All these become impossible many times, I find.
Right.
It's all right for the middle class community. When you meet in a conference, you can do all that. But what about labor? What about factories? What about people? In Bangalore, when I go to the institute 2-3 times a week, and then on the road I find people don't even wear the mask properly. It is hanging around the neck for whatever reason.
Right.
So they are not closing their mouth and nose.
Yeah.
It's so important. What is the use of wearing the mask if it is not covering the mouth and the nose?
Right.
Therefore, I think these two are, in my opinion, extraordinarily. And then, if you have a symptom,
Right.
isolate yourself. That is also possible.
Right.
And if the isolation does tell you you are developing fever, immediately report it.
Right.
Yeah, I feel there may be people who are still not reporting.
Right.
They think, oh, it will go away, whatever reason.
That's right.
If we follow these,
Right.
to a large extent, we may be all right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sense of responsibility. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your thoughts and your advice on this. It was great talking to you, sir. Thank you so much for spending time with us talking about COVID vaccines. I'm hoping more and more people get over that reluctance they have for getting the vaccines, the hesitations and the concerns. I hope some of them we've tried to ease with the discussion we had today, sir. Thank you so much for doing this, sir.
Thank you, Mayur. Thank you for the opportunity. It was a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.